Kevin, now a lot of people will recognize you from movies, and probably a lot of people have seen you doing stand-up. Now, I've always been curious about comedians. Do you remember your worst experience doing night stand-up comedy?
My worst experience doing stand-up comedy. My. There's a whole lot of them. I mean, in the beginning, it's very bizarre and difficult to control a room when you yourself have no idea what you're doing. I've had a drunken patron, 6'5", come up on stage and take the microphone from my hand. More humorously, my favorite introduction in a dive that was a restaurant as well as a comedy club. We're out of Thousand Island, and now here's Kevin Pollak. That was very frightening. I'd say that was one of the lows for me.
Well, let's jump to your movie career.
Now, yeah, let's jump right to that, shall we?
Now, with Willow, now, probably a lot of people probably thought that was a lot of fun to do, but that was a very heavily laden with special effects. Was that more difficult to do than you thought it would be?
Technically, it was difficult because we had to hit exact points on the screen. It was very sort of scientific and technical how they actually did the blue screen and matted us into existing footage. But it was a lot of fun because Ron Howard and my co-star, the other brownie, Rick Overton, were incredibly fun to work with. So there was a lot of playfulness on the set. And if you ever hear an actor complaining about how tough their job is, just slap them for a day and a half. Seriously.
Now, another movie you were in that I really enjoyed was Avalon. That was a movie that didn't really do great box office here in the U.S. Were you surprised that it didn't do that well here?
It was a very small picture, you know. It was a very personal movie, and I don't think I was surprised. I expected it and hoped that it would be seen by more people. That's always my concern about the box office. Until I invest some of my own money, I'm just hoping that people get a chance to see it. And when I read the script, I said, I really want to see this movie, even if I'm not in it. And it was such a special film for those people that did see it that I just wish more people had seen it. I understand why they didn't, because of the way the box office works and what draws people to a film, to a theater sometimes, isn't just quality, you know, but excitement and whatnot.
Now, with A Few Good Men, on a movie set, there's a lot of waiting around, and you're a funny guy. I imagine you'd like to tell a lot of jokes.
Well, Rob Reiner and I kept the troops happy, no question about it. We liked to perform, but everyone had their bits. Nicholson loved to tell stories. Kevin Bacon is very, very funny, and Tom and Demi loved to laugh. I mean, it was a very fun set. People were very professional, very focused, but not intense, you know. So it was very playful.
Now, as a kid, I don't know if you ever played a soldier, but when you put on the Marine uniform, was that a bit of a rush at all?
When I was a kid, we played Army. I was never the lawyer, if that's what you're asking. That's actually something I should think about. Why does no one ever play the naval attorney when they play Army as a kid? What was the question? I'm sorry.
Oh, about putting on the uniform.
Was it difficult?
Did you get a bit of a rush there?
Oh, a bit of a rush, yeah. Forgive me while I entertain myself. It was a little intimidating to put on a naval uniform, especially the dress blues, and get that bad haircut. It was, but it was a little bit of a rush. Yeah, I guess from that childhood memory of playing Army and whatnot. We all like to play dress up, and Ricochet got to play a cop, and that was a bit of a rush too. So yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate.
And I'm doing a story on a feature on actors and the advice they get through their careers. And actors get good advice, they get bad advice. Hopefully, they don't follow the bad advice. But what has been the worst piece of advice that anyone ever gave you about your career?
The worst advice? Wow. I think I've been fortunate. I don't know that I've ever received advice that I would consider to be standout bad advice. Yeah, boy, I'm glad you asked that question because it sort of makes me realize that I've been more fortunate than I thought. Maybe, Well, I would say only once. When I first came to Los Angeles, I thought I was a big shot. And the first woman I read for said, you ought to go back to San Francisco and just be a comedian because you don't know what you're doing. So I would say that is pretty bad advice. That's it. That's the worst advice I ever got.